Friday the 13th has long been considered a day of bad luck, misfortune, and all-around general nastiness. Although many people fear the date, just as many people don't know the truth behind the reasons that the day came to be so generally feared. The fear of Friday the 13th has been the inspiration for many things: a secret society in the late 19th century, a popular novel in the early 20th century, and a wildly well-known horror film franchise that started in the late 20th century and continues to this day, almost 2 decades into the 21st century. The fear of the date is so well known and accepted that names have been created for the condition. Frigatrice K decaphobia and Parascavadecatriophobia. The fear of Friday the 13th has its origins in the fear of the number 13 itself. As with a black cat crossing your path, or breaking a mirror, or walking under a ladder, a great number of people believe that the number 13 is a bearer of bad luck. This is not anything new or modern. The number 13 has been considered cursed for hundreds if not thousands of years. While the culture of the Western world have long associated the number 12 with being whole, such as in 12 in a dozen, 12 months in a year, 12 days of Christmas, and 12 signs of the zodiac, adding just one digit and making it 13 upsets what is believed to be the natural order of things, and thus brings about bad luck. Many Christians consider the number 13 unlucky due to incidents in the Bible. For example, 13 guests were in attendance at the Last Supper. Jesus, along with his 12 apostles, including Judas, who betrayed him. Of course, the next day in the Christian tradition was Good Friday, the day of Christ's crucifixion, so it's easy to see the logical connection. The fact that there are 13 seated at the Last Supper gave rise to the tradition that 13 guests at a table is unlucky and could be a harbinger of an impending death. Though the unlucky association with Friday is not as common, it's also a part of the Christian tradition that many bad things happened on Friday. The aforementioned crucifixion of Jesus, as well as the day Eve gave the apple to Adam, and later the day when Cain slew his brother Abel. However, there are some people who not only don't believe the number 13 to be unlucky, they instead go out of their way to prove their point. One such example consisted of the infamous 13 Club of Old New York. In the late 1800s, a former sea captain, William Fowler, took great joy in disproving all the myths surrounding the number 13. The fact that seafaring folk are generally very superstitious only added to the captain's delight, and he whimsically created a secret society in New York City which he called the 13 Club. The members met regularly for dinner at 8:13 p.m. on the 13th day of every month in room 13 of the Knickerbocker, a cottage and local watering hole which Fowler owned. As 13 candelabras, each bearing 13 candles, were lit, the 13 guests sat down for a 13-course meal. Upon entering the hall, they had already required a walk beneath a ladder and a banner bearing the Latin inscription Morituri te salutamus, which translates roughly to, "We who are about to die salute you." As far as is known, no tragedies befell any of the members during their membership, and there were even 4 presidents of the United States who were members of the secret society at one time or another. Chester A. Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, and Theodore Roosevelt all lived to tell the tale. In fact, at the meeting honouring the first anniversary of the group, the club scribe gleefully noted, out of the entire roll of membership, whether they have participated or not at the banquet table, not a single member is dead, or has even had a serious illness. On the contrary, so far as can be learned, the members during the past 12 months have been exceptionally healthy and fortunate. In regard to its place in popular culture, Friday the 13th is known for a couple of different entities. The first instance of note being when in 1907, a writer named Thomas William Lawson published what would become a popular novel titled Friday the 13th. Interestingly, or perhaps oddly enough, the plot of the novel was the story of a New York stockbroker who used the fears and phobias of Friday the 13th to manufacture mayhem on Wall Street and in turn make a killing on the stock market. Perhaps the best known example in the modern times of the Friday the 13th superstition was brought about by the horror movie Friday the 13th, which released in 1980. Friday the 13th would go on to become considered the greatest horror film franchise of all time, and kick-started the slasher genre. Spawning an outstanding 11 films to date, the movie also led to a television show, comic books, video games, and a plethora of character-related merchandise, most notably of Jason Voorhees, the masked killer from the series. Needless to say, Friday the 13th was in no way unlucky for a man named Sean Cunningham, the creator of the franchise which took the world by storm. So, what other bad things have happened on Friday the 13th? In the year 1307, on Friday, October 13, officers from the court of Francis King Philip IV arrested hundreds of the Knights Templar, a mighty military and religious sect formed to protect the Holy Land in the 12th century. Thrown in prison for trumped-up charges of various illegal behaviours against the crown, many of the Templars were put to death. In reality, the king actually cared more about their rumoured treasures than any supposed crimes. It's clear why this incident only reinforced the biblical ramifications of the Friday the 13th superstition. Whether the Templars believed in the curse of the date is unknown, due to the dark and secretive nature of their organisation. In modern times, there have been many infamous incidents which have occurred on Friday the 13th. On Friday, September 13th, 1940, the Germans bombed Buckingham Palace. Friday, March 13th, 1964, saw the gruesome murder of Kitty Genovese stabbed repeatedly outside her apartment building in broad daylight. The New York Times reportedly that as many as 38 passers-by witnessed the attack but did nothing to assist the young woman. On Friday, the 13th of November, 1970, a freak cyclone of record proportion killed an incredible 300,000 plus people in Bangladesh. Friday, October 13, 1972, a Chilean Air Force plane disappeared in the Andes, killing half of those on board, either from the crash or from freezing temperatures in the remote mountain region. The handful that survived had to resort to cannibalism before they were rescued. On Friday, September 13, 1996, legendary rapper Tupac Shakur died from injuries received days prior during a drive-by shooting outside a Las Vegas casino. Most recently, on Friday the 13th of January 2012, a cruise ship named the Costa Concordia crashed off the Italian coast, killing 30. And so it goes. Regardless of whether you choose to avoid black cats or sidestep around open ladders on Friday the 13th, Dr. Phil Stevens, Associate Professor of Anthropology at the University at Buffalo, says that it's very important not to mock other folks' inner convictions surrounding not only Friday the 13th, but any fear or phobia. Sometimes these are frivolous things, but sometimes they are deeply rooted cultural fears, Stevens says. You can insult somebody by making fun of it, or you can be ignorant yourself. Some people have deep cultural taboos that you cannot change by denying them. Whatever you believe, have a good Friday the 13th.